Hey guys, welcome to the video for practice test number 2. Just real quick, this is not the kind of video that you should just watch from start to finish. It's probably going to be more than 30 minutes long and you will be asleep by the time it is over. Instead, please take the test to the best of your ability, use the answer key to see which problems you got wrong, and then track those problems down on this video so you can see how to work them correctly. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with problem number 1. Number 1 says, what is 6% of 82? All right, this is one of those where we can just translate the English into math. So the what is the unknown. So I'm going to write an X here. Is going to be my question, not question mark. Is going to be my equal sign. 6%, I can't put a raw percentage into an equation, so I'm going to change it to a decimal first. So decimal is going to move 2 places. We're going to have to bring our own 0 for this one. 0.06. Of 82, the of means to multiply. I'll show that with parentheses, and then 82. Once you have it like that, all you have to do is put it in your calculator, 0.06 times 82, and that equals 4.92. Okay, let's go to the next problem. Again, we're going to take the English and translate it into math. 8 is 40% of what number? So 8 becomes the equal sign. 40%, move your decimal, 0.40. You could put 0.4, that's also fine. Of what number means times the variable, let's just say x again, so times x. It's going to look like that. Now we have to solve for x. We're going to do that by getting rid of the 0.40. Let's divide it away. That will cancel, and you'll have to do 8 divided by 0.40, and that's going to give you 20. So 20 equals x, and that is your answer. I didn't circle that one. There we go. Let's keep going with number 3. 22 is what percent of 45? All right, translate it into math. 22 becomes equals what percent? This time I'm going to use a p because that is going to remind me at the end of the problem to move that decimal point. 22 equals what percent p of 45? So p times 45. Okay, now we need that p by itself, so we got to get rid of that 45 by dividing it. Let's do 22. 22 divided by 45 is going to give us 0.48888, repeating forever. Now when I'm using percents, I'm going to keep 5 decimal places. Okay, so it was 0.4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 5, the first 5 decimal places on here. And now I'm going to use that p to remind me, hey, got to move that decimal point. So decimal is going to move 2 places, and I'm going to wind up with 48.8. And before I write this next number, this one here, I'm going to look at this last place and see if it's a big enough number to bump this up to a 9. And in fact, it is. That's supposed to be an arrow. It just turned out messy. It is, so it's going to be 48.89 for our answer there. All right, and oh, I forgot something. Let's write that percent sign. Very important. Don't forget your percent sign. Okay, cool. Going on. 15% of 240 is what number? So 15% becomes a decimal, 0.15 of 240 means times 240 is, there's your equal sign, what number? I'll just write x. Now let's just pop it in the calculator. 0.15 times 240 is 36. 36 equals x. All right, short and sweet there. Let's keep going to number 5. Find the percent change to the nearest hundredth and state whether it is an increase or decrease. I will try not to forget that last step there. So if we have old and then we're going to new, the first step here, step 1 is always to find the change. Step 1, find the change. So in this case, we're going to do 120 minus 96, and that is going to equal, I believe, 24, but let's just make sure 24 is correct. So here the change is 24. And now we're going to say p% of the old is the change, which is 24. Now let's make it into math. So p times 120 equals 24. Now we have something we can solve. Let's divide by 120 on both sides. And we're going to get p equal to something. I don't know. P equals 24 divided by 120 is 2,880. Now, I think that does not sound right. Let's take a look at that. It looks like I hit the times button instead of divide. Let me try that again. 24 divided by 120 is going to be, there we go, 0.2. Okay, let's move that decimal 2 places. It looks like we're going to have to put a 0 there, and we'll wind up with 20%. And what was it? Was it an increase or a decrease? It looks like the price or whatever it was went down, so we're going to say decrease. Okay, awesome. Now this one has a star by it. They just want you to be a little bit careful because they give the new price first and the old price second. Just trying to mess you up a little bit, but they're not going to succeed, right? No way. So let's find the change. 54.5 minus 21.8. 54.5 minus 21.8 is going to give us 32.7. So this is the amount of change. And now we need to say p% of, which number are we going to use? Make sure you use the original, okay? P% of 21.8 is the change, which is this one, 32.7. Now we can write it as an equation. P times 21.8 equals 32.7. Divide by 21.8 on both sides. Let's see, 32.7 divided by 21.8 is going to give us 1.5. Now let's move that decimal point because that p is reminding us it is reminding us that this is a percentage. Looks like we're going to need another 0 in there, so we can just supply that, and then you're going to wind up with 150%. And that is an increase because there's the old, there's the new, it got bigger, so increase. Now this is a pretty big number. Let's just double check and make sure we did it right. Anytime it's over 100%, that means it more than doubled. So did this more than double? Yeah, it did, because like if round that up to 22. 22 times 2 would be 44, and that's even higher than 44. So it did more than double. It looks like our answer makes sense. Let's go on to number 7. Original is 24.75, the new is 16.50. So first find the change by subtracting. 24.75 minus 16.50 equals 8.25. Okay, now you're going to use this in an equation with the original. So p% of 24.75, I'm just going to go ahead and say 24.75p. So that means p% of 24.75 right there equals the change, 8.25. Okay, now solve for p by dividing on both sides. And what are you going to get? 8.25 divided by 24.75. And you got a bunch of 3s. I recommend keeping 5 digits. So you're going to have p. You're going to keep 5 digits when you're solving for p. When you're solving for x, you can just keep 2 digits. Okay, solving for p is going to be 0.33333. Okay, and that p reminds us we have to move our decimal point 2 places. I can't ever seem to say that one right. One of these days I'm going to get it. 33.33%. Okay. Oh, I forgot my word there. Increase or decrease? It went from that to that. It looks like the price got smaller, so we're going to say decrease. Okay, all fixed up. Let's go to number 8. Last week, students sold 25 magazine subscriptions. This week, they sold 113. Well, that's a big increase, isn't it? Let's figure out how big that increase is by subtracting. So 113 minus 25 equals 88. So that's the amount of change. So let's do p% of the old price, p% of 25. So you're going to write 25p equals the change. Don't set it equal to that. It'll get you the wrong number, unless you're doing it a different way. I know some of you are, and that's okay. But the way I'm doing it, set this equal to the change, which is 88. And then divide both sides by 25. 88 divided by 25, 3.52. All right, so now that p reminds us we still have to move our decimal, so we're going to move it 2 places, 1, 2, and get 352%. And is it an increase or a decrease? We went from 25 to 113. It's a big increase. Okay, and you'll notice that this number is big. Is it over 100? Yeah, it's way over 100. So we got to make sure it more than doubled. And yeah, 25 times 2 is 50. So it way more than doubled, and that means that this answer does make sense. Okay, let's do number 9. Find the final cost to the nearest cent. $28 shirt, 5.6% sales tax. So we need to find this percent of that, and then whatever that answer is, that's the tax, and we're going to add it to the price of the shirt for the total cost. Okay, so 28 times 5.6%, we need to move that decimal, and it'll be 0.056, and that's going to equal the tax, whatever it is. So 28 times 0.056, 1.568. 1.5, instead of leaving it as a 6, the 8 is going to bump that up to a 7, okay? So 1.57. So this is the tax right here. Now to find the total cost, the final cost, you're going to have to add the tax to the original price. So 28 plus 1.57 equals 29.57. Okay, so add a dollar sign and you have your final answer. Let's go on to number 10. Now number 10 I'm going to solve a different way. So pink will be this way, and then I'll use purple pen for the other way. So this time you have a meal that costs $83.75, and you're going to leave an 18% tip. So in this problem I multiplied first and then added second. In this problem I'm going to add first. What am I going to add? I'm going to add 100% plus 18% to get 118%. And now I'm going to multiply 83.75 times 118%, move that decimal, so 0.18, 1.18, and then we just have to multiply that out. Let's see what we get. 83.75 times 1.18 equals 98.8, and that's going to bump up to a 3, 98.83. And that's the price of the meal with the tip right there. Okay, so you can do it either of these two ways. They both work. Let's go back to the original way for this one. You have a $100 bouquet, and you need to know what 7.2% sales tax of that is, so we're going to multiply that times 0.072. Make sure you don't put those percentages straight into the equation. Always change them into a decimal first. And that's going to be 7.2, in other words, $7.20 for the tax. Okay? And now we need to add it to the original price of $100 to find the total. So $100 plus 720 equals 107.20. That's a lot of money for flowers. That better be a beautiful bouquet, maybe for someone's wedding or something. Okay, now let's talk about this pizza. We're going to go back and do it the other way, so I'll switch to purple. So you've got $33.45 for pizza, and you have a 10% tip. So let's go ahead and add first 100% plus 10%. Now, if it had been like a decrease, like maybe a discount, something like that, you would have to do 100% minus 10%. But in this case, tip gets added to the amount. It's just like a markup, so we're going to do it this way. And that is going to equal 110%. And now this is what you're going to multiply the original price by. Of course, we're going to turn it into a decimal first, because that's what we always do. 33.45 times, move that decimal 0.2 places, 1.1. You can put the 0 or not. It doesn't make a difference. When I put it in the calculator, I'll probably skip it. 33.45 times 1.1 equals 36.795. Another rounding situation. This 5 is going to bump that 9 up, which is going to bump the 7 up to 80. So 36.80. And that is your final cost, including the tip. Okay, let's go to page 2. So we've got a table here. It says complete the following table. Let me get that out of the way. So you have the old, the percent of change, the amount of change, and the new. So this column, everything in this column, times this column will equal the third column, because the original price times the percent of change equals the amount of change. And then to find the new, you have to either add these together or subtract them, depending on whether it's a decrease or an increase. Okay, let's get started. So we need to figure out the amount of change when you had $9.25 and a 20% markup. So let's do 9.25 times, move that decimal point, 0.2. I could put the 0 if I want to, but you don't have to. 9.25 times 0.2, and that's going to be $1.85. And that's going to be a markup because I just took that word from there, so we know it's a markup. Now this is not a good time to use this technique. If you watched this part of the video where I added to 100% for this, this is not a good place to use that because you're specifically having to calculate the amount of change. So just use the old and the percent of change like you find it for this kind of problem. Okay, now to find the new, well, when it's a markup, you're going to add it to the old price. So we're going to do 9.25 plus 1.85, and that is going to equal something. Let me get it on my calculator. 9.25 plus 1.85, 11.1. Notice there's only one decimal place here. You need two places, so just add a 0 there. Otherwise, it does not look like money. So it's going to be $11.10. Just like that. Okay, let's do the next problem. So here, the old price is that, and the new price is that. 40 went to 28. So what we need to do first is figure out the amount of change. We're going to do that by doing the old price minus the new. And that is going to give us a difference of, I believe, $12. Okay, so the amount of change is $12. Now, was it a markup or a discount? It looks like the price went down, so it's going to be a discount. $12 discount. Now we just need to be able to write that discount as a percentage. So P% of 40, so P times 40 equals 12. So P times 40, I know usually we see 40P, I just wrote it the other way around, but as long as you know that they're multiplying, you're good. P times 40 equals 12, divide both sides by 40, and you're going to get P equal to, let's find out, 0.3. So is this my percentage? No, that P is there to remind me to move my decimal 2 places, and we wind up with 30% discount. Okay, there we go. Now let's look at this one. So here we have a 20% reduction. And then the new is 880 iPods. That is a lot of iPods. I don't know if that was a price or what, but we'll just use these numbers and not worry about what they actually mean, okay? So in this case, you're going to use the ideas that we have over here where you can add or subtract from the percentage. Now it is a reduction. So that means we're going to have to subtract that 20% from 100, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. 100% minus 20% is going to equal 80%. So what does that tell us? It tells us that 80% of the original number equals this, okay? So 80%, I'm going to move my decimal and write 0.8, of this number, I'll just write x, equals 880. Okay, now we just have to divide through by 0.8 on both sides and we'll have our answer. 880 divided by 0.8, we get 1100. 1,100. Okay, so 1,100 iPods, I guess. That's what I'm going to write because that's what it says there. And what was the amount of change? Well, in this case, you can just subtract 1,100 minus 880, and you're going to find out the change was 220 iPods, or 220 fewer, I guess. As long as you indicate that there are less, you could have put less also. Okay, and there's that one. Let's go on. You have 15 yards. We don't know the percent of change, and the amount of change was a 4-yard gain. So 15 times P%, equals 4. You're going to divide both sides by 15, and you're going to get, let's see, 4 divided by 15 is going to be 0.26666, and I want you to keep 5 decimal places. 0.26666. And again, you only need to keep 5 when you're solving for p, okay? And that's because you have to move the decimal point. So that p does remind us to move the decimal point. You're going to wind up with it right there. So you'll get 26.6. Will this one stay a 6? No, this guy over here is going to bump that up to a 7. 0.67. So 26.67% increase or gain or whatever you want to put there. Okay, now we just need to know the new. So if it was a gain, should we add this or subtract it? We should add it. That's right. 15 plus 4 equals 19. 19-yard gain. Okay, cool. Let's do number 17. It says find the total cost to the nearest cent for a $40 pair of shoes that's on sale for 20% off with a final sales tax of 5.75%. Okay, let's talk about order first. What we want to do first is figure out the new price once you take 20% off. Step 1, find the new price with 20% off. Step 2, do the sales tax. So step 1, new price. Step 2, add sales tax. Okay, so let's figure out our new price. So we're going to take 20% of 40. So 40 times, let's move that decimal point, 0.2 equals 40 times 0.2 is 8. Okay, now was it a discount? Let's see. It's on sale, so that means the price is going to get lower. So we'll have to take the original price and subtract the amount of change. 40 minus 8 equals 32. Okay, so $32 is the new price. Now we need the tax on it. So take that new price and multiply it by 5.75%. So we'll move that 2 places and we get 0.0575. Okay, let's see what the tax is on this 32. 32 times 0.0575, $1.84. Okay, now we have the tax and we have the new price. We need to add them together. 32 plus $1.84 will be $33.84. And this is the final total cost. Okay. Now, could you have done this whole problem the other way, where you make 20 into 80%? Yeah, because it's on sale, you would do 100 minus 20%, and it'd be 80%. And then this, you could make it into 105.75%, which is 1.0575. I don't know if that's helpful, but if you did it the other way, you could have used those two values instead. All right, let's keep going to number 19. Mr. Campbell pawned his watch at a pawn shop. If you don't know how pawn shops work, don't worry about it. Let's just go with this in the problem. It says they gave him $110, and they said they would charge him simple interest of 36% if he paid them back in 6 months. How much did he have to pay to get his watch back? Okay, let's remember our formula. Our formula is interest equals PRT, principal times rate times time. So this right here, this is our principal. That's the original chunk of money. This is our interest rate here, and this is our time. So let's start writing these things down into our equation. We need to figure out the interest first, and then we'll add it to the principal to figure out the total. So interest is going to equal principal, 110, times the rate, which is 36%. Remember, you don't want to put it in as a 36. You've got to move that decimal. So 0.36 times the time. Now, how are we going to put the 6 months in there? We need to change the 6 months into years. 6 months is half of a year, so I'm going to put 0.5. Okay? So now we have interest equals principal times rate times time, and we're just going to do the math in the calculator. So 110 times 0.36 times 0.5, and we're going to get 19.8. Interest equals $19.08. We got to put another zero there to make it look like money. So interest is $19.80. That's quite a bit of interest in 6 months on such a small amount of principal. But that's kind of how pawn shops work. So let's take that interest, $19.80, and add it to the original amount, which was $110. And then we'll get the new amount that Mr. Campbell will have to pay to get his poor little watch back. So 110 plus 19 is going to equal $129.80. Okay, and that's your total amount. So we have one more problem. As you notice, I'm asking you to skip this one and skip this one. I'm going to reformat it a little bit on your paper, so you might not even see those. Don't worry about it if mine looks a little different than yours. Here is your last problem. Jonathan was given a problem involving percents, and he made a mistake when solving. Look at his solution below. Your job is to explain what he did wrong and solve it correctly. Okay, let's read the problem. A clothing store had to mark up everything by 4.5%. What is the new price of a shirt that had sold for $22.99? Okay, so Jonathan worked it out, and he did $22.99 times 0.045 equals $1.03. So it looks like he moved the decimal point on the percentage. That's good. And he multiplied. That's also good. And he found that this was 1.3, and he said the new price is $1.03. Now, does that answer make sense? $1.03 is awfully cheap. If the shirt was $2.99 and they had to raise the prices, it should be above $22.99, right? So what did he forget to do? He just forgot the last step, where you have to take the amount of change, which is this, and add it to the old price. So let's do that for him. So $22.99 plus 1.03 equals, and our calculator will tell us the rest, $24.02 is that new price, it looks like. So Jonathan was close, just not all the way there. I have forgotten a step though, didn't I? Because I solved it correctly, but I did not explain what he did wrong. I did verbally, but let's make sure we write this down. So I'm going to say Jonathan forgot to add this to the original amount. All right, so I think we have covered everything. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck on your test tomorrow. Bye, guys.